As the 2024 U.S. presidential election approaches, speculation about Donald Trump's potential return to the White House is intensifying. If Trump were to win, his presidency could bring significant changes to international relations. Here's an analysis of what a second Trump term might mean for NATO, Europe, Russia, Ukraine, the Middle East, China, and Taiwan. NATO and Europe. In Trump's first term, he was marked by his critical stance on NATO, repeatedly urging member countries to increase their defense spending. If re-elected, Trump may continue to pressure NATO allies to meet their financial commitments. This could lead to tensions within the alliance, but might also push European countries to bolster their military capabilities independently. Regarding the European Union, Trump's relationship with the EU was often strained, characterized by disputes over trade and defense spending. A second term might see renewed criticism of the EU's trade policies and efforts to renegotiate trade agreements more favorable to the U.S. This could lead to a more transactional approach to U.S.-EU relations with potential trade disputes but also opportunities for new deals. Russia and Ukraine. Trump has often been accused of having a soft stance on Russia, despite sanctions imposed during his presidency. A second term could see attempts to reset relations with Moscow, potentially easing some sanctions. This might foster cooperation in areas like arms control, but could raise concerns among NATO allies about U.S. commitment to countering Russian aggression. In Ukraine, Trump's previous interactions were controversial, particularly regarding military aid and political pressures. If re-elected, Trump might adopt a more hands-off approach, possibly reducing U.S. involvement. This could leave Ukraine more vulnerable to Russian influence and aggression, depending on the level of support from European allies. Ukraine may lose the war and surrender for the Russian demands, and Trump may promise Russia that Ukraine will not join NATO in the future. Also, he may negotiate with Russia to take parts of Ukraine. The Middle East, Israel, and the Abraham Accords. Trump's administration brokered significant peace agreements between Israel and several Arab states. A second term could see further efforts to expand the Abraham Accords, strengthening ties between Israel and additional Middle Eastern countries. Trump is likely to continue his strong support for Israel, possibly pushing for more U.S.-brokered agreements. Regarding Iran, Trump's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal and imposition of severe sanctions were key policies of his first term. A return to office would likely see a continuation of this hardline stance. Trump might seek to renegotiate the deal on terms more favorable to the U.S., but this could increase tensions and instability in the region. During Trump's first term, a notable trade war with China emerged, alongside a push to reduce U.S. dependency on Chinese manufacturing. The U.S. and China fought a trade war during Trump's term, when ties between the nations frayed over a range of issues, including the origins of the coronavirus, espionage, technology, and human rights. We might see a continuation of these policies aiming to economically decouple from China and challenge its technological and geopolitical ambitions. This could manifest in increased tariffs, stricter trade policies, and more robust alliances with Indo-Pacific countries. On the Taiwan front, Trump's administration took significant steps to support Taiwan, including arms sales and high-level diplomatic visits. If re-elected, Trump is likely to maintain or even increase this support for Taiwan, potentially escalating tensions with Beijing. This could involve more military aid, diplomatic recognition efforts, and participation in regional security initiatives aimed at countering Chinese influence. Trump's Taiwan policy is based on America first, American interests, and even personal electoral interests, Trump said in an interview. With that being said, Taiwan did take all of our chip business. We used to make our own chips. Now they're made in Taiwan. We should have stopped them, he added. We should have taxed them, and we should have tariffed them. So Trump would be hard on both China and Taiwan economically. As the possibility of Donald Trump's return to the White House in 2024 looms, many are contemplating the potential domestic implications of a second Trump presidency. His policies and plans could have far-reaching effects on various aspects of American life, from immigration and federal employment to the economy. Here's an analysis of what might happen if Trump were to win the 2024 election. During his first term, Trump's administration took a hardline stance on immigration, significantly increasing deportations and conducting high-profile raids. If he were to return to office, it is likely that Trump would renew these efforts. Enhanced immigration enforcement could lead to more frequent and aggressive deportation raids, increased detentions, and stricter border controls. Additionally, Trump is likely to push for the completion of the border wall along the U.S.-Mexico border, a cornerstone of his first-term agenda. He may also advocate for stricter immigration laws, potentially seeking to end programs like Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA, and reduce the number of refugees and asylum seekers allowed into the country. Trade and tariffs. During Trump's first term, tariffs were imposed on a range of imports, especially from China. The goal was to protect American industries and reduce the trade deficit. If Trump is re-elected, he may reinstate or even increase tariffs on goods from countries he views as unfair trade competitors. While this could benefit certain domestic industries, it might also lead to higher prices for consumers and retaliatory tariffs from trading partners. Furthermore, Trump may seek to renegotiate existing trade agreements to secure more favorable terms for the U.S. This could include revisiting deals like the USMCA, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, and negotiating new bilateral trade agreements aimed at boosting American exports. So in terms of federal employment and bureaucracy, Trump has expressed a desire to significantly reduce the size of the federal government, criticizing what he perceives as a bloated and inefficient bureaucracy. A second term might see large-scale firings of federal employees, particularly those in agencies he perceives as politically opposed to his agenda. This could include staff reductions in departments like the Environmental Protection Agency and the State Department. Furthermore, Trump might push for reforms to civil service protections, making it easier to hire and fire federal employees. This could lead to a more politicized federal workforce, with greater turnover and potentially less stability within federal agencies. Moving on to economic policies, Trump is likely to continue advocating for tax cuts, particularly for corporations and high-income earners, believing that such measures stimulate economic growth. Deregulation would also be a priority, with efforts to roll back regulations across various sectors, including environmental protections and financial oversight. Additionally, Trump could renew his focus on infrastructure development, seeking to invest in projects that improve roads, bridges, and other critical infrastructure. He may also continue to promote policies aimed at revitalizing American manufacturing, such as tax incentives for companies that bring production back to the U.S. The economic impact of Trump's policies would be mixed and highly debated. Proponents argue that tax cuts and deregulation could spur economic growth, increase investment, and create jobs. However, critics warn that these measures could exacerbate income inequality, increase the national debt, and lead to long-term economic instability. In the realm of the social and political climate, a second Trump term would likely deepen the existing political polarization in the country. His confrontational style and divisive rhetoric could further inflame partisan tensions, impacting social cohesion and public discourse. Additionally, Trump would have the opportunity to continue shaping the federal judiciary, including potentially appointing more Supreme Court justices. This could solidify a conservative majority on the court for decades, influencing key decisions on issues like abortion, gun rights, and healthcare. To conclude, a second Trump presidency would bring significant changes to U.S. domestic policy. While some Americans might welcome a return to Trump's tough stance on immigration, trade protectionism, and deregulation, others may be concerned about the potential for increased social division, economic inequality, and instability within the federal government. The ultimate impact on the American economy and society would depend on the implementation of his policies and the responses from various stakeholders, including Congress, the courts, and the American public. A second Trump presidency could bring considerable changes to global geopolitics. His approach would likely be characterized by a focus on American interests, with a mix of transactional diplomacy, economic pressure, and strategic alliances. While some nations might welcome a return to Trump's policies, others may brace for increased uncertainty and potential conflicts. The global landscape could become more polarized, with the U.S. taking a more confrontational stance in some regions while seeking to renegotiate relationships in others. As always, the outcomes would depend on a complex interplay of international responses and the evolving global context. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to the channel.